So I've been reading a lot of books, and I feel like I haven't talked about them on this channel very much. The last time I did just like a normal wrap up was February. So I watched one of Riley's videos, and she did a wrap up that was full of questions, and I really enjoyed that like structure of a video. So I stole some questions from that, but it's also June. Looks at calendar. It's also time for like the mid-year book freakout tag. So this is like a dramatic, expanded mid-year book freakout tag video. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below what books you are reading, what books you are super excited to read for the next half of the year, and let's bring on the books. A couple of stats before we get started. I have apparently read 46 books already this year, which is literally ridiculous. I haven't read this much since I was like a teenager. According to Storygraph, I have read almost 19,000 pages. My favorite moods are dark, adventurous, and emotional, and I feel like you will all agree with that knowing my taste. My most read genre is fantasy, which is a surprise to no one. I've read 23 books, which means exactly half of all of the books I've read this year have been fantasy, followed by horror at 12 books and contemporary at 9 books. My average rating this year was 3.79 stars, which is pretty good in my opinion. So yeah, let's jump into the questions. What is the best book so far? Y'all already know the answer to this. Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Duh. That might be the best book I've ever read in my entire life. That book was amazing, and I've already talked about it for like literally an hour straight on a different video, so we'll move past that. Best sequel so far. So the best sequel so far is probably Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. The whole series got a 5 stars for me because it was fantastic. And if you haven't read it, literally, what are you doing with your life? A book that lived up to the hype. So I actually have a couple here. I just finished My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and that was heartbreaking and horrible to read, but truly it might have been like one of the most beautifully prose written books. It was really, really gorgeous. I think that book absolutely deserves the hype. Same with Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zoner. That book was fantastic. It was a great memoir. Very, very sad, but the descriptions of food, relegating like all of her life experiences back to different food preparations was really, really lovely. My third book that I put in this category is Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. That book was so fucking good. I can't even describe how good it was. Comfort Me with Apples was a horror novella, and it was so sharp. The text was so specific, and the twist was so good. I can't recommend that book enough. Books that did not live up to the hype. Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw was fucking terrible. And I feel really bad about that because the premise was great, and honestly the cover is fabulous, but I have never read a book about such unlikable characters that clearly weren't meant to be unlikable. That whole friend group fucking sucked. I did not understand why they were all even there. I think I gave it 2 stars. I'm here for the bi representation, and the cover is really good. It wasn't like the worst thing I've ever read, but no, that book was bad. Also, The Stand by Stephen King. I read the extended version, and that might have been my mistake. All of the women in that book are just walking wombs. Not a single woman isn't pregnant in that stupid book. There's like 4 female characters and they're all pregnant, except for Mother Abigail, who's just like the magical black woman trope, and that's also not great. I can't believe I read all 1,300 pages of that stupid book. Where did my life go? But like, from what I've seen, people either hate this book or love this book. So if you loved it, I mean, I'm glad you liked it. I did not. Book that felt like my biggest accomplishment. You would think The Stand, and frankly, like, I am surprised that I finished it, but because I hated it, I don't consider it like an accomplishment. I think Priory of the Orange Tree absolutely is the biggest accomplishment, or I'm halfway through reading Anne Rice's The Witching Hour. And honestly, the fact that I've gotten this far, I feel like that's a freaking accomplishment. This book is so detailed. Like, think Diana Gabaldon Outlander detailed, but instead of describing like the landscape and like all of the things around the characters, she's describing the backstory of every single character. Like, I feel like I know these characters better than I know my own family. This already feels like an accomplishment, and so I'm gonna put it in here. Also, it's good. Although definitely like lots of incest. But good. good. Oh, my new favorite character. Okay, my new favorite book character is absolutely Maddie in the Book of Accidents. But she was so funny and so unique and cool and spicy and powerful, but also empathetic and emotional. I just loved her. I feel like I connected with her so strongly, like so powerfully. Okay, my least favorite character, Jacob Strain in My Dark Vanessa, is absolutely my least favorite character, but like he's also not supposed to be the hero of the story. That feels like I'm cheating because he's a bad person. So my other least favorite character, honestly, don't at me for this one, Van Helsing in Dracula. That man rambled so much. He talked over everybody. God, he was so irritating to read. He had monologues in every single fucking chapter. Like, my dude, I don't care. That whole book was really rambly and really tedious. I did not enjoy that read, although I'm glad I read it, which is like a weird thing. He was just boring. And because the whole book is about Van Helsing, that made that whole book like really boring. Sorry. Most shocking book or moment. Okay, so I didn't know that The Ballerinas by Rachel Kapelk-Dale was a thriller. I thought it was, I don't know, like a contemporary friendship story. I don't know. I didn't expect it to be a thriller. And so all of the twists at the end like really threw me for a loop because I did not know what I was reading. So that's my own fault. Really good though. I really liked this one too. Book I want the most people to read. I want people to read Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates. This is a nonfiction about her exploration of extreme misogynist groups online. So that includes incels, men's rights activists, MGTOW, which is men who go their own way, and pickup artists. She did a bunch of research into these groups, put all of it into a very wonderfully well-researched, well-articulated book. This is a heavy read. This is a triggering read. There's things in this book that are quotes from these websites that I could not have come up with in my wildest imagination. They're so terrible. So like just be prepared going into that, but I absolutely want as many people in the world to read this book. Really important to understand how we're essentially like grooming young men and boys through the internet into believing these things about women and about the world as a whole. And I think it was just so important and so eye-opening. And so I definitely recommend that to absolutely everyone who thinks that they can stomach it. Favorite book cover. Okay, this was such an easy choice. Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Look at how gorgeous this book cover is. Like, I'm sorry. If you are a fan of noirs and also vampires, book that made me cry the most. Literally in my video where I finished reading the Mistborn trilogy, I was filming and I like couldn't stop crying once I finished The Hero of Ages. So fuck you, Sanderson. You made me cry a lot. The other book that made me cry a lot was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I was like doing dishes and listening to the audiobook and like sobbing my face off. Sobbing my face off, we're gonna go with it. But like in a happy way, because that's how TJ Klune does his thing. Oh, book that made me laugh the most. Okay, so I read Sailor Moon and I just loved it. This is just so wholesome and fun and hilarious, and I think Usagi is like the absolute most funny character. She literally introduces herself like, I'm Usagi, I'm 14 years old, I'm really lazy, and I'm a total crybaby. Like, I just love her. I love Usagi. I love all the Sailor Moon gals. The other book that made me laugh a lot, but for the exact opposite reason, was Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. Check the triggers on this one. This book was fantastic, but like I was so uncomfortable through the entire last like 20-30 pages. I was laughing. You can watch that reaction live. It is 1:30 in the morning. What the fuck did I just fucking read? What just happened to me? That book is a wild ride. Okay, new favorite authors. Guys, look, Sylvia Moreno Garcia can do no wrong. Mexican Gothic was one of my favorite reads of last year. I've read Certain Dark Things this year, and I also read The Beautiful Ones. Her character development, and especially her family dynamics. There's something about the way that she writes relationships and familial relationships in particular that make you immediately understand who that character is and why you should care about them. I love that she tries out so many different genres with her pieces. So she's not just a horror writer, just a fantasy author. Like, she really does try out a lot of different things. Like The Beautiful Ones is a historical romance. And wow, it was so good! It was one of the best romances I've read in quite a while. This is a noir. I don't even really like noirs, and I really liked this. And obviously Mexican Gothic is a Gothic horror. I'm really excited to explore more of her work. I just think she's phenomenal and unique, and all of her stories feel like they could have only come from her brain. I don't know how else to describe it. I love her work. Book that was the biggest surprise. So actually, I'm gonna put Comfort Me with Apples as this one. That twist, I did not see that twist coming. And it was such a good surprise. The best kind of surprise. That's all I got for you. Newest release that I've read, I just read Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse, which is the second book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, which is the first one was Black Sun. It was good. Not great. Not nearly as like hard-hitting as Black Sun, I guess. A lot more politic-y. I would definitely recommend reading Black Sun like fairly recently before jumping into it. She's definitely like trusting you to know and remember who all these characters are. And like, I read Black Sun a year ago, and so it was kind of hard for me to jump back into the story, which that's my fault. That's not her fault. I'm so excited for the third one. I can't wait to see how the trilogy wraps up. New release that I want to read is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I grew up on iCarly. I know that recently she has been talking about how much she hated doing that, how she was basically supporting her family at like 13 years old, which is something no kid should ever have to go through. So I'm really excited to read her memoir, like as someone who grew up watching her and loved her. And honestly, the title I'm Glad My Mom Died, you got me right away. I saw that and I was like, add to TBR. A book that I would reread, I'm already planning on rereading Priory of the Orange Tree before the prequel comes out. We'll see if that actually happens. But I also think Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I mean, I haven't read the rest of the series, but I think that trilogy at least is going to be like a set of books that I read a lot. I really loved that. It feels like a comfort book. It was so cozy for a fantasy. I just loved every little bit of it. So I think that's absolutely something I would reread again and again. Okay, books I'm excited for the sequel of. Okay, I already talked about Between Earth and Sky. I talked about the Farseer trilogy. I'm really excited to read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo sequels. This would have been the best book so far of the year if Priory of the Orange Tree hadn't swooped in and stolen it. And I also, I didn't grab it. I just read Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. Guys, this book was so good. I'm super invested in this story, so I'm excited to read the second book in this series. This follows, what is this about? So this is about a little headmaster of a school, Thomas Senlin, who like goes to what is called the Tower of Babel with his wife on a honeymoon and like immediately loses her and spends the rest of the book like trying to find her. Definitely talking about capitalism attacking Western society, which I'm always a fan of. His character is really engaging. His wife's character, she might also be one of my new favorite characters. To answer that question, she's so cool. She's so much fun. The next question is books that I want to read by the end of the year. I was supposed to read Five Little Indians by Michelle Good in May, and I just never felt like it. That's absolutely a book that's like on a quick TBR. I would like to read that sooner rather than later because I was really excited to read it. And then also, I just talked about how Fran and I are buddy reading something for this month. The next thing we're buddy reading is The Way of Kings by my love Brandon Sanderson, who's also one of my new favorite authors, but I feel like we knew that already. We're gonna start this in July. I'm a slut for Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, so Stormlight Archive series I'm really excited for. Honorable mentions of books that I think people should read that I thought were fantastic. A Burning by Megha Majumdar is my first one. That is set in Kolkata, India, and follows a young girl who says something stupid on Facebook and winds up getting accused of being part of a terrorist group. And it also follows her ex-gym teacher and how he gets involved in like the right-wing politics, how the two of them are like intertwined. Their fates kind of like are intertwined. The other book that I think people should read, if you like horror and you are okay with body horror, which like I'm not super okay with body horror, this one kind of snuck up on me, but like it was so good I didn't really care. Ring Shout by P. Daly Clark. This is set in a universe where the KKK are demons, like literal demons, and this group of demon fighters basically are trying to take them out. My only qualm with this book is that I honestly just wanted it to be longer. There's very few books where I'm like, just give me more. It's really good, but I think it would have been served really well by getting more time and more space. It was a really fun horror. It was very gory and like weird and heady, and like a lot of stuff was going on. And the body horror, unmatched. And then the last question that I will ask is my favorite video that I posted this year. Honestly, this might like be weird, but my Marvel book recommendations video was really fun to put together. And on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, my pro-life movement history video, that was a real labor of love. I'm really proud of how that one came out. I put a lot of research and time into that video, and I'm really, really happy with it. Okay, that's it. Thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys have been reading. I don't know, talk to me. Talk to me in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Is that really how I'm gonna end this? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, bye!